Hello and welcome to another episode of Nerdosphere Reviews. The Enter the Nerdosphere podcast, where we review a movie, a show, a topic of some kind that needs talking about.
Do you think the mic picked up on you scratching your side like that? It's pretty loud.
Yeah, it's pretty itchy. Anyways, today we will be reviewing, which basically is just our fancy word of discussing.
Yes. Our fancy word? I don't think we can claim the word review.
No, but I mean, in this case, we're not really this isn't a breakdown review. We're just talking about what we like about it, why this is a great show.
You didn't come with a breakdown?
Neither did you. Put your Pokedex phone down.
He knows me all too well.
So, as you can see on the screen behind us, we're doing Stranger Things today. If you haven't watched this show, it is on Netflix.
We gave you so much time to watch it. Do you understand? We could have done this as our first review a week ago. We could have done it 2 weeks ago.
This will be spoilerful. But it's a great show. And let's just get right into it.
Right.
What is this show, Corbin?
Stranger Things, at its core, as far as tone and style, is as if Steven Spielberg directed a Stephen King story in the 80s. That pretty well sums up what this show is. You've got brilliant kid actors.
That's something that I think we should mention as well as far as tone goes. So,
family-friendly, PG.
Family-friendly,
there is
PG.
some content.
The main characters are kids, 4 kids. Minor characters include parents of those kids and siblings of those kids.
And the town sheriff.
So think of Super 8 is another good example of
Correct.
Main characters being kids. That type of adventure, these children stumble across a grand adventure.
Yes.
So stick that inside what hypothetically could have been a Steven Spielberg movie in the 80s based on a Stephen King type story.
And you have...
all of that being hypothetical, of course, because it's not directed by Steven Spielberg and it's not written by Stephen King. But just to give you an
directed
idea.
and written by the Duff brothers.
And they do a great job. Anyways, continue.
So the show starts off as... well, the very beginning stinger, right, is a scientist running down the hallway. It's flickering stuff. Something has gone awry in some sort of experiment.
He's running from something.
Running
scared.
for his life. He gets into an elevator, looks up, something kills him. Immediately goes into these kids playing Dungeons and Dragons. They all go home. One of the kids on his way home is being chased with something in the woods. Goes into his house. There's no one home. He goes into the shed to get a shotgun, trying to defend himself. The thing is in the shed with him, and he disappears. And this is what propels the story forward. At the core of this show, it is a mystery missing persons case, is what gets the pieces rolling.
Yes.
I guess, would that be considered the MacGuffin of the story? Finding Will?
Finding Will. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that leads to the sci-fi overarching plot. And so not only are they trying to find the kid, but they're trying to figure out this conspiracy and this thing that's happening. And as the show goes on, more and more people that aren't even focused on but briefly mentioned start disappearing.
Right.
There's those 2 hunters several episodes in where they're they haven't come home. Well, I'm sure they're fine. They've been drinking or something.
So while Will is gone, Winona Ryder, who
plays his mother,
does an excellent job too. She has so many great scenes of just raw emotion. Has a connection to her son, as some mothers do, which is an untangible connection. It's something on an emotional level. She feels that Will is near and is trying to reach out to her, and she can't explain it. No one's believing her. You have the sheriff who is trying to follow the pieces of where is Will, and he ends up picking up these breadcrumbs of this other kid who is 11. That's what her name is. She's a lab experiment in the show.
Mm-hmm.
She comes into the fold. And while he's trying to find Will, he accidentally starts following her trail and her story, and that's how we get the unraveling of like with the sci-fi stuff that's going on. And her backstory is that her mom in the 60s was volunteered for U.S. government testing for money. And what they did was they would load them up with psychedelics like LSD and shrooms, and put them in complete sensory deprivation tanks to try to open up the fourth wall in their minds to try to allow some telepathy. What the U.S. government didn't know, she was pregnant at the time, and she gave birth and died. Or no, she didn't die in childbirth. The government found out that she was pregnant, extracted the baby, and kept it for themselves, and that's who grows up to be Elle, who's 11 in this.
She has psychic type abilities.
Yes. And using her abilities, as her abilities unfold, she starts to they discover that she can track people, find their locations, and while she's doing that, she opens up the world to another dimension, and that's where our monsters and true sci-fi stuff come into fold.
Yep.
And ultimately, where Will goes. But it's really so good.
It's the kind of show that you turn it on and you just can't stop watching it. Like, I think
it's only 8 episodes.
In the course of 2 days, I was done with it because I started watching it, couldn't stop, fell asleep, woke up the next day, gave the kids breakfast and turned on their TV, and was like, okay, don't bother me for a minute. Watch your Yo Gabba Gabba while I finish Stranger Things. But I was actually just saying the whole tone of the show it's very reminiscent of the 80s type adventure film. You have this intro, which we have freeze framed right here with the title, so you all can see it. But that's really what gripped me. I was just telling you this off cast. That's what gripped me. The intro to the series, like the intro 10 minutes that's meant to grip you, had me going, okay, this is interesting. Let's keep watching this. But then it was this intro that it just grabs you. This is my kind of show right here.
It was a show. When it's over, it leaves questions, but in a very kind of, again, Stephen King-esque manner. It doesn't need a second season. It concludes the story of finding Will and leaves things open-ended. But what it is it's a conclusion of a story, but not with a nicely tied bow, which is almost how every Stephen King story ends, where it's like the task at hand is over, but it's still a living, thriving world. So obviously this will never end. What's going on in the background. So this show, all eight episodes, is complete mystery, and as each episode comes out, as you watch it, it's further unraveling, and you're like getting more engrossed in what's happening. But we had talked about was if they ever did a second season, aesthetically, in my opinion, it would not be the same show, because it would have to dive into lore, whereas this was more of, what is this?
We kind of had the same gripe with Wayward Pines.
Yes.
The first season of Wayward Pines was really, really good, and it's because of the mystery aspect, and we follow Ethan Burke trying to figure out what's going on. That show, we could almost do a whole thing on that show too, because they do really well of not dangling the mystery too long in front of you before he figures it out, because there's a lot more to figure out besides just like the mystery of Wayward Pines, the town.
Right.
But we have a nice kind of open-ended ending with that show, and it was meant to just be a one-off, and I thought that was a great way to end it. Like, there was Ethan Burke's story is completely resolved, but Wayward Pines is still around, and it ends in a way that makes you go, oh man. and then it lets your imagination run wild. Now the second season comes along. They almost try to recapture that initial mystery with a new character who just woke up.
Waking them up.
And that to me, like, I immediately was like, this is a mistake. They shouldn't have done this. But now, the show is better now, but it's definitely not the same show because they have to dive into the lore. Because the mystery and the awe is gone. Even the thrill of, like, the world, what's going on in this world is gone. All there is left is to just explore the lore and continue to tell the story. So it's got a different feel.
Right.
And that's not always a good thing.
Right.
So I actually, before the news came out that there was going to be a second season, you had already voiced your concern. And I suggested they do an American Horror Story type where they continue to tell Stranger Things stories, a standalone every season. Maybe they end up being in the same universe or maybe not. But maybe that's how you like continue to capture the awe and wonder.
Yeah.
So
the show ends with Will and his family around the dinner table on Christmas. And I say that because the Duff brothers, when they were recently interviewed about what they would do with the second season, should Netflix say, yes, do it, which the Duff brothers are hoping are sooner rather than later due to the rapidly aging child cast.
Mm-hmm.
They said that the children actors have already aged so quickly that they would not be able to pick the show up with that following January. They would have to already, as of right now, at least skip 1, maybe 2 years
so that it makes
into the
sense.
future, because the kids are already look so much older.
That to me, I mean, it shows that they're playing smart as far as going with what their actors are, what's happening with their actors in real life. But that almost kind of further solidifies my opinion that they should just do another standalone story, because you're again going to lose the wonder, most likely, because it happens.
Well, because they already said the second season would dive into the lore.
Right, it's going to dive into the lore.
It's almost like they heard me say it.
Right. But the child awe and wonder that they express won't be as apparent because they're not going to be children anymore.
Right.
So, speaking of things like that, let's get into the characters and the storytelling. As far as, let's talk a little bit about like the acting, and I want to talk about the chief, how they told his story really well without holding your hand.
The character arc that stood out the most to me that I really appreciated was Steven and the older sister.
Mm-hmm.
Their relationship was done, in my opinion, the best way, and they kind of broke the formula. So Steven is kind of like the bad boy in high school, right? And the older sister, I can't remember her name.
I can't either.
Is like the goody two shoes, like 4.0
It's
student.
the main character's older sister.
And they, for the most part, make a pretty good couple. You see that although he's kind of been around the block, things are different with this girl. Like he actually cares for her.
Mm-hmm.
You have Will's older brother, who's kind of a weirdo, and there's a couple scenes where in a traditional movie, what would happen is Steven would mess up, ruin his chances with the sister, and then she would fall into the arms of Will's older brother because he's just there at the right time. He means well. He's a good guy at his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And for most of the show, it kind of seemed to go that way. And when shit started hitting the fan, and the monsters started coming out and affecting their lives, and Will's older brother and the sister know about it, but Steven doesn't, I leaned to my wife and I said, I think so much damage and drama has been done that the issue with Steven is so far out there that there's no way for him to reconcile the mistakes he made as a douche of a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But they redeemed his character by allowing him to have a moment of bravery, fighting off the monster to protect Will's brother and the sister. And by the end of the show, it shows them together. So again, they really kind of broke the stigma of what normally would have happened in that situation.
They go against typical tropes
right
for a more realistic approach, which is something we complain about all the time when we review things.
Right, which I really, really appreciated because I enjoyed the character. His growth is awesome. He realizes, the friends I've surrounded myself with are like a terrible influence. One of his friends had slut-shamed her by spray painting graffiti on a theater, and Steven, without her knowing or anything, went to the theater just to do right without getting the reconciliation or the gratification of knowing that he did the right thing by someone else. He just went and cleaned the graffiti himself, which I thought was a huge character move.
Yeah, I agree. And the older sister, the actress, is just phenomenal. We talked about it right after we watched the show, but her eyes tell everything that she's thinking and feeling. She's such a good little actress. We
said the same of Elle too, because Elle barely talks.
Yeah.
All expression.
Yeah. Just, they did such a good job finding people.
What did you want to say about the sheriff?
I just wanted to say that they really used the characters well to tell the story and to drive the story. And we know going into it that this chief of police has a past other than being a small town cop, because he's extremely familiar with the crime scenes that we see him. He is extremely savvy when it comes to putting things together as far as the investigation goes. And slowly the show gives us little snippets and pieces of his past so that we get to see who he is and even what kind of happened to shape him and put him in this place without holding our hand and like spending a whole episode on like his flashback or something, which is something we see all too often.
Right.
Like we find out that he had a daughter, she passed away. He's kind of like super motivated to find Will because he doesn't want to lose another child because he takes his job really seriously.
Right.
He was a big city cop in some capacity.
Yeah.
Now runs the small town police force. And him as a character is just like, he holds himself to a moral standard and is willing to do whatever it takes to get this kid back. Follow any lead, do anything.
Break into a highly secure government facility.
Mm-hmm.
Literally go into a toxic dimension to get the kid. And ultimately,
he was originally expecting to go in by himself, willing to sacrifice himself to save the child.
Which is like, oh, man.
Yeah. Just everything about it. So, like, this story, Stranger Things, is a great story. But it's a good story, but it's made great and almost epic because of the characters.
Yeah.
The characters are so deep and complex and so well acted and so well written. And like I said, the show doesn't hold your hand. It leaves pieces of information that you need to know laying around, little breadcrumbs, so that you can put it together yourself. I don't know. It's just,
for me,
it was elegant.
Yes. For me, it left the same impact as if you've ever watched season 1 of The Killing, you will know that once you've watched that, you can never, ever, ever watch any crime drama of any sort ever again, because it will be ruined by The Killing, because it is so good.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
This kind of did the same thing to me. When Stranger Things when I finished episode 8, nothing sounded good. I was going through and I was like, even things I was kind of interested in watching was like nothing. So I was like, it's not going to satisfy me in the way that this show did. It
brings a new meaning to the show hole movement that everybody's been. I mean, I guess Amazon is hashtagging and promoting that marketing slogan, but
right.
It brings a whole new meaning to that word, because it's not about now what am I going to watch? It's now about what's going to fill that void as far as quality goes.
Right. It was just It was intoxicating. It was so good. All the feels.
Mm,
I would easily give it a 9 out of 10. Easily.
I would too. This also, we could talk for a second about, this also shows Netflix just continues to bring it when it comes to original programming.
That's right.
I can remember not that long ago when Netflix first announced starting to do original programming, thinking, what?
Right.
Why? First of all, why? And second of all, how is that going to be any good? And they continue to put out better and better things.
Like Bloodlines.
Bloodlines is a great show, and then of course all the MCU stuff.
Right. House of Cards is
House of Cards is really good, but they continue to not only put out quality stuff, but to set the bar for everything else. A streaming service.
Yeah.
So
they've come so far from a company that originally mailed you DVDs of movies and TVs you wanted to watch. I remember when Netflix first started, I kind of laughed at it. I was like, this isn't going to go anywhere. Remember the TV commercial was like in the classroom. They had like different iconic movie characters or like relationship type characters. And it was like, well, we're going to mail you out to this person. And I mean, back then that was
back then it was like there's a Blockbuster down the street.
Right,
how are you going to mail this and be successful when I can
there's no way.
Walk to the local Blockbuster?
If only we had invested.
For real. Goodness.
The things we would do.
Walgreens, that'd be something to invest in back in the day.
Have faith with Nintendo?
Only to gain the initial bump
to
sell before the drop when everybody realized that Niantic was the one making all the money and not Nintendo.
Yes.
Because they went up, 75 points or something, but then they dropped 25%.
Yeah.
When the market realized it wasn't a Nintendo game.
Yeah.
Talking about Pokemon Go, of course, for anyone who's not savvy to that.
Also, as far as aesthetics go, it's the little things that also really, really please me. Each episode is a chapter. It's very much treated like a book. I don't know. Again, it's the little details that go into what is the medium of this story. How is it being told to you? In what capacity? In what fashion? And it's just, I don't know. I really liked it.
It was very good. One gripe I will have is they did a really good job as far as film quality. Like the aesthetics was really good. It really looked and felt like it was supposed to. The music was really good to put you in that right mood of like the 80s mystery adventure. But the monster looked so good that it was odd when there were other CGI things happening because they didn't look so good. Like one thing that comes to mind is when the main kid is forced to jump off the quarry and she picks him up. It's so obvious that it's CG, and he even has lines around him, kind of like circa, maybe it was on purpose, but circa like 1980s movies when something was green screen, you could tell that there were lines around him.
Maybe they spent all the money on the monster.
Well, that's what I was thinking. They probably invested so much of their effects budget on the monster that they didn't invest a whole lot in the little things like that, and I think that next season they should.
I'll agree. I will agree.
Basically anything besides the monster. So anything that Elle did that wasn't just like a practical effect push. So anything she lifted. Like when she was lifting the Millennium Falcon for a second and then flew it, you could just tell. It was blatantly obvious that it was CGI.
I don't remember it affecting me that way.
I noticed immediately and it took me out of the show.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
I guess I was just so engrossed I didn't care. I liked it more than you.
If you say so.
Civil War. Boom!
So that's kind of all I have to say about it.
So if there's anything to come away with from our brief, semi-specific ramblings, it's that you need to watch it if you have not watched it.
It's a unique
If you have watched it,
experience.
let us know what you loved about it in the comment section below.
It's a unique experience. It's very, very reminiscent of, like, we keep saying it, but of old 80s movies. And the feel is just awesome. Storytelling's awesome. Characters are awesome. Acting's awesome. This is just, it's a high quality show. It is a must watch.
It is. And where would you like to see the show go?
I don't know. I still kind of stand by my, I'd rather see it be standalone seasons, but since we know that's not going to happen, I don't know. They're going to delve more into the lore, so I'd like to see what's going on with Will, what's going to happen from that. Is that one single little larva that he spit out the only one, or is he incubating a whole horde of these things? Where is Elle? Will they get it back?
Yeah.
What's the chief doing with the government now? Because he was most likely recruited by that dude at the very end.
Yep.
So.
Well, for those listening, there's the comment section. Let us know what you would like to see.
Yeah, let us know what you want out of a second season. Let us know what you thought about the show, what you liked. And that's it. This has been another episode of Nerdosphere Reviews, the Enter the Nerdosphere podcast, where we review movies, shows, and talk about topics. And most likely, unless it's a movie and we're just picking it apart, it'll be like this. Just a discussion about what we liked or didn't like about something.
Exactly.
So, and we'll tell you at the end whether you should see it or not. And this is definitely one you should see.
And we'll see you
Next time.